Theranos, the story of how a tech startup which was once valued at over $9 billion deceived everyone and bilked investors out of hundreds of millions of dollars. This story is almost unbelievable, but true nonetheless. How a 19-year-old college dropout was able to convince so many people to shell out $700 million in funding for a bogus technology is just mind-boggling. Did the technology ever work? Was this a scam from the beginning? Or did the executives at Theranos that knew of the fraud become so buried in their own lies that they had no choice but to continue building the house of cards they constructed, knowing that one day it would all come tumbling down? The Theranos fraud will go down in the history books, and Elizabeth Holmes' name will join the likes of Bernie Madoff, Barry Minkow, and Charles Ponzi in the investing world's Hall of Fame. In this video, we are going to take a deeper look at how this massive fraud took shape, who the main players were, and how it all eventually came crashing down. So stick around while we uncover what was behind this multi-billion-dollar fraud, and don't forget to subscribe for more great content. It all started in 2003, when 19-year-old Elizabeth Holmes dropped out of Stanford University, where she was studying chemical and electrical engineering. She used her tuition money to create the now infamous company Theranos. At the base of it, her goal was to revolutionize the way blood samples were taken and analyzed. The current technology required a vial of blood for every diagnostic test that was going to be conducted, which was not only expensive, but very time-consuming. Theranos claimed that it could run over 240 different tests from a single drop of blood. This would be a game-changer and save the medical industry countless hours of sampling and analyzing, not to mention the amount of money saved in lab and labor costs. Now it's the late 2000s, and Theranos has gone through a few rounds of fundraising from investors. At this point, no one really knows what Theranos has been up to, as Holmes has been working in the dark, but she was still able to bring in millions of dollars from unsuspecting investors. By 2010, Theranos was valued at a staggering $1 billion, but had yet to really produce anything at all. Now we jump to 2014, and Theranos has ballooned to a massive valuation of almost $9 billion and has raised an eye-watering $400 million from investors. One of which was Walgreens Pharmacies, who shelled out $140 million to the venture and partnered with Theranos to open up in-store testing centers in 40 different Walgreens locations. At this point, Theranos is flying high, and Holmes is now the youngest female billionaire in the world since she holds a 50% stake of the company. Now Theranos is becoming very mainstream and getting a lot of attention, but Holmes is extremely secretive and refuses to discuss how the technology at the heart of their Edison machine really works. A fact that Holmes claims is because Theranos was trying to protect its technology from competitors. It was later proven that the technology was never even submitted for a peer review in medical journals, which should have raised red flags. On October 15, 2015, John Carreyrou with the Wall Street Journal released a bombshell article claiming that Theranos had over-exaggerated their proprietary technology after receiving a tip from someone with inside knowledge. They began to dig a bit deeper, interviewing ex-employees who claimed an incompetent management team overstated the abilities of the Edison machine, and that most of the tests run by Theranos were actually done on competitors' equipment, which would be a direct violation of United States FDA rules. This led to an investigation of Theranos by the FDA, which then said Theranos had uncleared medical devices, and the design was not validated under actual or simulated use conditions. A month later, a deal worth $350 million with Safeway fell apart after key deadlines were missed, and executives of Safeway began to question the validity of the results Theranos delivered. Then another article released on December 27, 2015, again by the Wall Street Journal, went on to claim that management at Theranos was actually rigging tests on its Edison machines to produce better results. On top of that, in January of 2016, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, released a letter stating that a lab in California used by Theranos posed an immediate jeopardy to patient health and safety. They gave Theranos 10 days to correct the issues or would not only face daily fines, but could also face the loss of CMS-approved payments for Medicare. As a result of that report, Walgreens pulled the plug on the Theranos Wellness Center at its Palo Alto store and immediately suspended use of Theranos' lab based in Newark, California. It is at this point when things really start to fall apart for Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. In November of 2016, it is reported that Walgreens, Theranos' largest partner, was now suing the company in an attempt to claw back the $140 million it had invested. A looming federal investigation, as well as a plethora of bad test results, were just a few of the reasons that Walgreens was ending the partnership, effective immediately. Interestingly enough, Theranos shot back and put out a statement claiming, "Over the years, Walgreens consistently failed to meet its commitments to Theranos. Through its mishandling of our partnership and now this lawsuit, Walgreens has caused Theranos and its investors significant harm." A settlement was later reached between the two companies, with Walgreens agreeing to dismiss the lawsuit. The terms of the actual settlement were confidential. Walgreens would later settle a class action lawsuit from the patients of Theranos for $44 million over the fraudulent blood tests. This was just one of many lawsuits resulting from this elaborate Theranos fraud. Another one of Theranos' largest investors, Partner Fund Management, also filed suit, claiming that through a series of lies, material misstatements, and omissions, they were tricked into investing in Theranos. They also accused Theranos of securities fraud and other violations by fraudulently inducing PFM to invest and maintain its investment in the company. This lawsuit was also settled out of court with PFM dismissing all claims, again with terms that were confidential. In March of 2018, the Securities and Exchange Commission officially targeted Theranos founder and CEO Elizabeth Holmes, as well as the former president Ramesh Balwani. They claimed that both Holmes and Balwani made numerous false and misleading statements in investor presentations, product demonstrations, and media articles by which they deceived investors into believing that its key product, a portable blood analyzer, could conduct comprehensive blood tests from finger drops of blood, revolutionizing the blood testing industry. In truth, Theranos' proprietary analyzer could complete only a small number of tests, and the company conducted the vast majority of patient tests on modified and industry-standard commercial analyzers manufactured by others. Boom, there it was. Now officially charged and potentially facing decades in prison, Holmes settled with the SEC but neither admits nor denies the allegations. But as a result of the settlement, she agrees to give up control of the company, hand over the 18.9 billion shares she has, agree not to serve as a director or officer in a publicly traded company for 10 years, and pay a $500,000 penalty. In November of 2022, she was sentenced to 11 years in a federal prison and later ordered to repay $452 million in restitution to the victims of the fraud. Although whether any of the victims will actually receive any money remains to be seen, as Holmes claims she can't even afford to pay the $250 a month payment her lawyers negotiated. Even if she did fork over that $250 a month, that would take over 150,000 years to pay off. Not very likely. In May of 2023, after a few failed attempts to delay her sentence, she eventually reports to a medium-security federal prison in Bryan, Texas, where she is currently serving time and is scheduled to be released in December of 2032. Ramesh Sunny Balwani, on the other hand, had decided to take his chances in court, and in July of 2022, after 5 days of jury deliberations, he was found guilty on all 12 of the criminal fraud charges he was facing. At his sentencing hearing in December of that year, he was given 12 years and 11 months in federal prison. Along with Holmes, he was also ordered to pay the $450 million in restitution to the victims, who include Walgreens, Safeway, and billionaire Rupert Murdoch. Balwani reported to prison in April of 2023, where he will spend the next 13 years at Terminal Island Prison in San Pedro, California, where Al Capone and Charles Manson also called home. Unfortunately, there is no happy ending for the investors of Theranos. The chances of them ever seeing their money are slim at best. No matter how much due diligence had been done, there was no way for them to really know the extent of the lies and fraud that took place behind closed doors. All anyone can do is remember stories like this and learn from the mistakes of others. Sometimes if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Do you have any successful investment stories you would like to share, or any investment horror stories like this one? Let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe and watch other videos from our Scandal series.